Hi everybody, Matt Bull here, MD of Action Coach Loughborough, here with another episode of the Business Spotlight. And today we are very privileged to have Chris Goodison from Pyrotech Limited joining us. How are you today, Chris?
I'm very well, thank you, Matt.
Good man, good man. So let's get started. Just explain to us a little bit about Pyrotech and what your role at the business is.
Okay, Pyrotech Limited is a subcontractor business in the construction industry, specialising in passive fire protection. When I say passive fire protection, it is the sealing up of service penetrations through compartment walls, the application of intumescent paint, and the installation of carried barriers, both around the perimeter of buildings, between the cladding and the structure, and up in roof voids where there's a requirement under legislation to break large voids down into 20-metre zones. So Pyrotech, we're third-party accredited. Our accrediting body is FIRAS. This is a regulation accreditation scheme that gives us a system of recording our works for end user in compliance with Building Regulation 38. It means that if we go on site and install any passive fire protection, the method of recording those works has to hit a certain standard, with the intention that the end user, the person who's going to use that building, has comfort that the works we've installed are compliant, and also that they've got transparency of the works, even if they're behind ceilings, walls, that aren't accessible in the finished build. And that is what we do. Now, we work countrywide. We've got a head office in Ashford-in-Azouch, which we have 15 staff working from, and those 15 staff facilitate and manage the operations of between 65 and 75 fixers and installers out on site. As I said earlier, we're a subcontractor, and we work for the main contractors, all of them. I won't name them, because if I named three and forgot the others and anybody saw it, they might think that we'd prioritise. But when you go through a city centre and you see the high-rise developments, that's what we do. We follow the mechanical and electrical installations, and working to tested and approved systems, we seal up the penetrations, record it, and it's all to be a compliance, so that as I say, there's a confidence in the compliance of our works.
Excellent, excellent, fascinating story there, and about what you guys do. From the point of view of your role in the business, have you always been in the sector?
No, I haven't. My background, many years ago, 1987, I started work for Lang Construction, now Lang O'Rourke. I did 9 years with them on a management pupilship. It was the equivalent of a management apprenticeship, where they put me through my education, and I went through different sectors of that business: engineering, quantity surveying, management. And after 9 years, I dropped into subcontracting. Started working in architectural metalwork, and then went into drywall partitions. And then that fed to me joining Pyrotech in 2014 as contracts director, taking over as managing director in 2015, and then completing a management buyout in November 2016, so 7 years ago. Amazing. So that's a brief synopsis of the history in the industry.
Okay, and so when you joined as contracts director, was managing director in the MBO, was that on the plan for you, or did that evolve?
It's a step by step. The original plan was a chap called David Harris formed Pyrotech in 1998. So we're just about to celebrate our 25th anniversary. And David was looking for an exit strategy. And although he wasn't in a rush, he was certainly working on a 3 to 5 year exit plan for himself, to take a retirement in his early 60s. So step by step, I joined as director, and I suppose the title could have been MD designate. So if things worked out for all parties, I would take over as managing director at a point to be determined. That happened 14, 15 months after I joined Pyrotech, and then I worked with David a year after that to look to put a buyout together where I headed up a buyout. I was the person who took on the personal guarantors to Allied Irish Bank, who lent us money, and also we did loan notes to directors. To a loan note, you may or may not be aware, is a system that, you know, it is an IOU. I owe people money, but I didn't have the money at the time to pay them. So through future profits, certain elements of those profits are put aside to clear your debts. We had quite steady but solid growth from 2014. When I joined Pyrotech, the turnover was 2.9 million. Last year, for the 5th year on the trot, we did over 7. And it might be that people think, well, will you keep growing? No, because we're able to deliver £7 million worth of turnover repeatedly to the same standard. So everybody gets, I'd like to think, everybody gets the same standard of Pyrotech, no matter where or who we're working for. And the reason we do that is because we've worked very closely over the last few years with our subcontract labour to make sure that they're fully accredited and fully trained and competent as our direct labour. So the split on our labour at the minute is we've got in the region of 30 direct employed on site, and then we top that up with between 35 and 40 subcontractors to give us the facility to move as turnover grows or decreases seasonally. We can bring in and remove subcontract labour. So it gives us the flexibility to perform. But it sounds negative, but when I took on all the debt and I took on my personal guarantors, nothing else mattered but clearing the debt and removing risk and debt from the business. I was able to do that by the end of 2017, so that all debts were cleared, all people were paid off. And from then, with nobody breathing down your neck, with nobody asking you where their loan repayments coming back from, you've got to reassess then, well, what do I want out of life? You know, what are my personal ambitions, and what can the business take on? And I think we're at a point now where we satisfy. Last year we worked for 147 different clients, ranging from one man, one day, to be delivered to a site, fully accredited, all records, fully certified, all the way up to we're completing a job for Vinci at QE Hospital that's £650,000 of package over 2 years. So we're able to deliver any size, any diversity within our accreditations, and anywhere in the country with the labour that we work with. Businesses are, it's like layers of an onion. To go to the next step, I'd have to increase my overhead. The minute I increase my overhead, I introduce a risk to the business that then puts us at risk of not delivering what we're currently delivering to the same standards. And if I don't have any debt and we're financially strong as a business, it's risk management. So although we've had good growth, I've actually gone the other way now, where we're now streamlining who we work for and where we work, because we're in a position to be a little bit more selective. We're very grateful for the work, but if I can manage it closer to the hub of where our labour resource is, and we work for people that we've historically had very good relationships with, then as much as subcontracting in construction can be, it's relatively hassle-free. And that's what I'm trying to introduce. People are coming to work, people are giving us their hard work and endeavour. If I can make that as easy as possible for them, then we're still satisfying the client base and our staff feel motivated and get satisfaction out of the jobs they do. And that's a balance, and that's where I'm at now.
Brilliant, brilliant. It's fascinating, as you sort of alluded to, a lot of business owners will chase the revenue, they chase the turnover, whether for whatever reason, whether it's what they think they should do or because that's what everyone else does. From your perspective, when you took over the business, were you clear? Was it a shock? What were the lessons you learned pretty quickly? You know, in 2016, as you say. Can you remember back then?
Yeah, 2014, I joined Pyrotech. But at that point, the business had, I think, no, I think it was harder to take Pyrotech from nothing to a turnover of 2.9 than it possibly was to take it from 2.9 as an established business up to 7 million. I feel that. I had a discussion with David in the past. He thought the opposite. So it just shows you from your own perspective. He thought it was harder to take a business and go to that next level. And I thought it was harder to start from scratch and get it off the ground. And that's so two people looking at it from their own, we had a difference of opinion, you know, just an amicable difference of opinion. But so for me, if you're going to take a business from 2.9 million turnover and introduce subcontract labour, you've got to know those subcontractors. You've got to work with those subcontractors. Pay everybody every month on time. We do not. I cannot remember the last time somebody chased me for a payment. And I think because the subcontractors working for other clients may have problems getting paid, with us, we pay them weekly. So we don't even put them on 30 days. We pay the subcontractors weekly. And I think it generates trust, confidence, and then a relationship then that you can go forward with. So to introduce subcontract labour allowed us, obviously, to put more men on site, satisfy more clients, do more turnover. But it was a steady growth. It was literally a steady growth. I think the first year I was with Pyrotech, we stood still for 8 months. Then we introduced subcontract labour. 12 months after that, we'd taken the turnover from 2.9 to about 3.8, 3.9. So although it was significant, it still was a manageable growth. And then it was just step by step. So over 5 or 6 years, we got up to levels of 7 million plus, but still with the same level of control that we had on when we were doing 2.9 million. So when somebody pick up the phone to Pyrotech, and this is one good thing about not quite being an ICI or a land construction, it's the phone goes and it's on a 3-ring rule. If it rings 3 times, anybody picks it up. Anybody picks it up. And then we can all divert them to the correct people. So we're not too big that we've become corporate, but we're not too small that we can't deliver a job that somebody needs doing of a significant size. So at the minute, I'm happy that through the endeavours of the staff and the dedication of the guys on site, that we've got a product that we can offer and keep delivering the same standard. And I do get good feedback from clients to back that up. Otherwise, I will be sat in an ivory tower, convincing myself that we're doing everything right. But we get very good feedback to say, look, thanks for going that extra mile. Thanks for what you did. If somebody says, can you come to site? We've got a problem. We will get our heads together and get somebody to site, as opposed to, you know, trying to avoid that personal contact. It's just about the relationships. I think about 65 to 75% of our work is repeat business through clients that have obviously had a satisfied job or have had satisfaction from the way that we've done things. I can't take the credit for that, because at the end of the day, my staff and our site installers don't get up in the morning and don't go deliver for the clients, there is no business. I am just the head of a very well-motivated, very productive, team, and I am eternally grateful to that team because they allow us to do what we do.
Well, I mean, it's great, obviously very humble. You say you don't take the credit for it, but you create the team, and it comes across very much the passion you've got for how you want things to be done, rather than just what you do, how you want things to be done, and you believe, repeat business and the reputation you've got is really important. How would you suggest to other business owners watching this that they can inspire and create teams that could operate in a way that you've just described?
I think there's two things. Firstly, if you've got authority, you can tell people what to do. You have the authority to do it. But if you can explain and people understand the bigger picture and buy into what they've got to do and why they've got to do it, they often do it willingly, because it's not dictatorial. It's purely, well, this is how the little cogs fit together, and this is how the machine works as a unit. And if everybody understands their interaction, then people do it because they understand why. It's not being told. Second thing is, I've noticed with the staff and myself, if we make a commitment, a business commitment, if we say your men will be there on Thursday, or I will be on this job once a month to do a director's report, I'm not making, I am, but I'm, in addition to making a business commitment, I'm making a personal commitment. And I think I see that in my administrative staff, I see that in the contracts managers, in the finance and the sales. Everybody makes a commitment, and I genuinely believe it's a personal commitment. And that's why I can feel that people are so impassioned to see something through, because it's personal. And I think if you can get the personal element into it, the business will flow from that. It's funny, really, because you've said, you know, what advice can I give? I don't really see myself as a position. I can only explain what works for me. If it works for me, it may work for others.
Always the case. Always the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. Final question I always ask everybody, Chris. You've obviously been on a fascinating journey throughout your career, but what advice would you give 18-year-old Chris?
I think an 18-year-old Chris thought that he'd be successful at 25. And there is a phrase that one of my old bosses thankfully didn't say it to me, but he said in an appraisal to a work colleague of mine that person's ambition outweighed their ability at that point in their life. He wasn't actually criticizing them. He said was, your ambition needs tempering to what you're able to achieve. And I feel grounded at 18 and a little bit more realistic. The months and the years fly by, and at 18 you never think they do. You think 25 is so far away. I'm 53 now. I started work at 18. I think it's a case of absorb from all the sources of knowledge, peers, colleagues, and let it evolve you into the person then who can match your ambition. And I do think an 18-year-old Chris thought that he could change the world in his 20s. I haven't changed the world yet, so I couldn't have done it in my 20s. Yet.
Chris, it's an absolute pleasure having you on this episode of the Business Spotlight. Some amazing insights, not only into business growth, I think, but the clarity you've got as an individual about how you want to live your life and how you want your business to be run, and obviously what you've created with the way that the business operates. It's fascinating talking to you, and our viewers will take a lot from that. So thank you for joining us today. And
thanks,
to our viewers, I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Business Spotlight. Many thanks.